Hi, everybody. Good morning. Today, what I'm trying to do is give you a review overall of the different angle relationships that you learned about last week from section 8.3.2. On Friday of this week, you're going to have a test. It's going to be shorter and a lot different than what we would have normally had if we were back in school. So a lot of the questions will be multiple choice, basically all of them. That way you will know your score right away. And I will encourage you to just let me know via email if you'd like a retest. That can definitely be something that we do. I really want you to understand what we're doing. That being said, I do want you to take this first round very seriously so you're not wasting your time. So today, looking at different angle relationships, we know we've learned about adjacent, vertical, complementary, supplementary. There's a lot of words in there. Remember to use that vocab sheet that Ms. Marks created that is in the resources for lesson 8.3.2, so you can go back to that assignment to be able to access those as well. So there's four main classifications of angles. This first one, an acute angle, is any angle that's less than 90 degrees. I like to think of that as a cute little angle is small, usually, and cute, and so acute angles are less than 90 degrees. A right angle is exactly 90 degrees. Usually it has a little box in the corner to signify it's a right angle, but it will be something, basically, if you think of a corner of a piece of paper, that would be a right angle that you could think of for that right angle. And another type of angle, angles that are more than 90 degrees. So if you know it's bigger than the corner of a piece of paper, wider than that between, again, the two rays. So an angle is formed by two rays that are connected at a point called the vertex, which is also on your vocab sheet that Miss Marks created. And so the space between, it doesn't matter if we're looking the space between here and here or way up here to way over here, that space is going to be the same measured in degrees. And anything that's more than 90 degrees but less than 180 is an obtuse angle. So the way I remember this one, obese starts with OB, and that's bigger. That means bigger, so obtuse is a bigger angle. And then a straight angle is basically a straight line. The vertex here I don't have in the middle, but it would be going from one side to the other here if we had the vertex in the middle that I forgot to put there, sorry. But that's angles that measure exactly 180 degrees. Now, adjacent angles can sometimes be confusing, but adjacent means next to. If you think of adjoining rooms, that means that you're sharing like a wall. So that helps to remember adjacent as well. They're adjoining. They have to have a common side, okay, sharing a side. And they have to have a common vertex, which is the starting point for all the sides. But they can also not have any interior points in common. So they can't be one angle inside of the other angle. Okay, the common side has to be between the two angles. They can't be one angle inside the other angle. These are three examples of adjacent angles. Now, vertical angles are angles that are formed by intersecting lines. Okay, you can see here in this example, we have two lines, this line here and this line here, but they are not adjacent to each other. So meaning they're not sharing a common side. They only share a vertex. That's all they share. And the really nice thing about vertical angles are they are congruent, which means they have the exact same angle measure. So if I knew in this drawing that angle 1 was, let's say, 30 degrees, that also tells me that angle 2 is 30 degrees. And then given what we're going to learn about supplementary angles, we can also figure out angles 3 and 4. And angles 3 and 4 are also vertical angles. And so they will have the same angle measure as well. Which brings us into supplementary angles. Those are two angles now that add up to 180 degrees. So they form a straight angle or a line together. When you add the two angles up, you form a line. So here with the same diagram I just used for the vertical angles, angles 1 and 3 are forming this line here. So they're supplementary. Angles 1 and 4 are forming this line here. So they're supplementary. 3 and 2 are forming this line. and 2 and 4 are forming this line. So those are all the possible supplementary angles that we can see there. Now, supplementary angles do not have to be adjacent, like in this picture, they're adjacent to each other because they're sharing a side to form that 180 degrees. But in this picture over here, we have a 120-degree angle and a 60-degree angle. They are not adjacent because they're not sharing a common side. They're two separate angles, but they add up to 180 degrees. 120 plus 60 is 180 degrees. So they still are supplementary angles. And the opposite of supplementary angles would be complementary angles. I really shouldn't say opposite, but the one that people tend to get confused, they switch them up. Because complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So together they're forming a right angle. I like to remember this as it's right to give a complement, meaning the right stands for the 90 degrees that it forms together with two angles. One 90-degree angle is not a complementary angle. We need to have two angles that add up to exactly 90 to be a complementary. But that helps us to remember that complementary is the 90-degree total instead of supplementary is 180-degree total. Again, these angles do not have to be adjacent. So this picture here on the left shows the pair of complementary angles that are not adjacent. A 40-degree angle and a 50-degree angle add up to 90, so they're complementary. And over here we have adjacent complementary angles, a 15-degree angle that's adjacent to an 85-degree angle because it shares this common side. That adds up to, oops, excuse me, I did screw that up. This should be 75 degrees. Excuse me about that. So again, this should be 75 degrees. And I don't know if I can write on that or not. Sorry about that, guys. Clearly this morning I can't add. So 75 degrees plus 15 degrees is 90. Now, I did not do a good job of finding that missing angle on that last problem, but that's why we want to know those angle relationships because they help us to determine missing angle measures that we would have if we only know one angle. We can usually find out the other angles that are missing. So in this first example, these two angles, 1 and 2, form this line, so they're supplementary, which means that they would add to 180 degrees. What I would like you to do right now on your own is pause this video to try to answer these 4 parts, finding those missing angle relationships for angle 2, and then you can resume the video to see if you are correct. So in angle 1, again, we said, or part A, we said that they were supplementary angles. So to find the missing piece, then basically we're solving the equation 75 plus x equals 180. And to get that answer, then we're going to undo adding 75 to angle 2 by subtracting 75 from 180 to give us the missing angle measure of 105 degrees. Now in part B, angles 1 and 2 are vertical angles. Remember, vertical angles are congruent, so they have the exact same angle measure because we're talking about this angle 1 here, which only meets at the vertex, and angle 2 here. If the 2 would have been on either one of these sides, then they would have been supplementary angles because they would have formed a line. It wouldn't have been exactly the same then. Then we would have solved it the same way we did A, or what we're going to do with D. So because they're the same measure, we just know angle 2 is also 55 degrees. Now in part C, we know the angles are complementary. Complementary angles we know have a sum of 90 degrees. So to get the missing angle measure of 2, we're going to subtract angle 1, 27 degrees from 90 degrees, and that will leave us with 63 degrees for angle 2. And in part D, the angles are supplementary, so that means they add up to 180. So we are going to take 180 minus the 30 degree for angle 1, and that will leave us with the 150 degree angle 2. I hope that helps kind of clarify some of the things from last week, and there'll be a short form that you can fill out with this information to see how well you're doing to prepare you for Friday's test. Have a great day.